Oh dear. Hi people, sorry, bit of a technical issue. I was trying to use my laptop and then for some reason deleted it. So we're now on the phone, trying to be clever. I've got a brolly ready actually, just in case. You never know. I'll take it everyone can hear me okay? Can someone confirm that they can hear me? Is that possible? Good. Yeah, Chattercoid photos are in. That was a bloody nightmare, that was. I'll just give it a couple more minutes because of me technical difficulties, just to make sure everybody switched over to this from the other live chat. Yeah, technology. I thought it was as simple as setting it up on my laptop and then going to it via my phone and I could toggle between the two. That's probably possible, but hey ho. No pressure then, Dave, being on the TV. Goodness me. Hi people. Now I've purposefully not fed the fish as well because I know I'm going to be absolutely dumping quite a bit of food in, so they're all hanging. So I've got all the questions that people put on the discussion or the community tab, depending on how it looks. I've got them printed off here, and I'll go through the questions, and then they are hungry. I'm going to go through the questions and answer them as best I can, and then we'll just see where it goes, really. Right, try not to spill that. Okay, so sheet's ready and prepared. Okay, so I'm just going to say I think there's only about 20. I'll say only, that's enough, isn't it? I'll just go through them. I'll try to be reasonably quickish with the answers, but you know, I do like to ramble on. And these are in no particular order. I've just written them down or just typed them all and cut and pasted them all from the thing. So it's not like I've done it in any kind of order. So first question from Anthony McNaughton Wood. What sides did I get the chags and how fast did they grow? Now, I've actually talked about a couple of my chags before. This one here, Chubs, which is 58 centimetres. I had from about that big. I bought 5 of them 4 years ago and decided to grow them on and keep them. I can't think, I got them from Quinical actually. I think it was 5 for 100 quid, and that one was the one that I decided to keep. The other ones, the biggest fish in the pond, that chunky chag there, Frank, 74 centimetres. He was bought at around about 70 anyway. He's not really grown anymore in the past 4 odd years. And this chag, Francis, which is 60 odd centimetres, I bought her. She was actually the first fish that I bought, which is someone else's question, so I'll talk a bit more about that then. And how fast do they grow? Well, chags do tend normally to be quite greedy, not shy on food and or people. As you can see, like my lot just comes straight. They're normally the first over for food, so that's a good start because you can get a lot of food in them. And normally most chags are from sort of good stock, so they can just grow quick, reasonably fast. I mean, when I've had them in a grow on at 23 centimetres, they were growing around about a centimetre a week. So I think the first year they were probably touching 50, and then once you put them outside, and if it's not heated and you've got that temperature, that it sort of slows down. Right, question 2 from Keith Sycamore. All the levels in my pond are fine except for nitrate. How do I deal with high nitrate? Nitrate. Do you know what? I never check it personally. A few years back I was actually getting nitrate out of the tap at 60 ppm, 7 Trent water that is, and obviously that's the last stage in your nitrification cycle, so it's the least harmful to the fish in the pond, but it does sort of do things like makes the weed grow a bit faster and a bit more. So I never check it, and I'm never bothered by it, but you would normally lower that with your water changes, so more fresh water really if you've got a lot of it, or if it's really high because you're turning over quite a lot of feeding the fish a lot and stuff, just more water changes, a bigger amount, rather than say like I do, a trickle in trickle out. If you've got the option to dump say 10-15% in one bash, obviously you'll be lowering that amount by that quite quickly. James the Koi Whisperer. I was dreading this one. I want to know what you did with the temperature plaque that I sent you. Now, I was hoping you wouldn't ask me this because it's a little bit embarrassing. Some of you may know my wife is a bit clumsy. We were deciding where to put the thing. Originally it was over here somewhere, but she decided she didn't want it up here. We were going to put it on the pergola over there. So when I took it out and we put it over there, before we drilled it up, what did she do? She stood on it and broke it. So unfortunately, it's in the temperature thermometer plaque place in the sky. I didn't really want to have to say that because it was literally 2 or 3 days after you sent it, maybe a week or whatever. So apologies about that. So unfortunately it's dead. So sorry, James. Dave Mead, if I could change one thing about my pond or something I wish I'd built or added, what would it be? Don't blame my wife, it's too late, I just have. It was a... So what would I change on the pond? Well, that's actually changed this past sort of year. The more I've tinkered with the pond, what I would prefer to change or have done differently has changed. Originally, it would have been to have a window here, because our lounge window to the house, and obviously we've got a conservatory there, is to have a window in the pond there. But as this year's gone on, and me tinkering with filters and heating and all that kind of stuff, I think I would prefer to have an actual dedicated filter house rather than a filter pit or bay or whatever. In hindsight, rather than being a bit of a skinflint at the start, I wish I'd have actually, rather than had planting behind the back here, just turned all of this area here into a filter room, shed, whatever you want to call it. There's plenty of space here. I could have took a bit of the hedge out and actually had a mammoth dedicated area for my filters. But that's sort of what happens. I mean, it's a bit annoying because when I started out, obviously I didn't know at some point I'll be able to afford or even get a drum filter. So the filter pit that I've got was originally housing a Nexus 210, and that was it. So there was plenty of room in there to get around and service anything or change anything. So it served its purpose for that. But as I've retrofit stuff like the drum and got the skimmer pipe going through for the heater, this is a bit of a nightmare now. Plus it's a bit of an odd shape which don't help. It's sort of a wedge shape, so straight along this edge and it's angled there. Absolute nightmare. So I think now it would be to have a dedicated filter room, ideally there. But you know, a bit late now. But that's what I would change. Steve Wainwright, if you had to sell a fish to buy a fish, what would go and what would you get? Now that actually, I think that's question of the day, because I've been thinking about it since you posted it, and do you know what? I can't decide. I mean, it'd have to be one that wasn't sort of my favourite-y kind of fish, which would probably be now either maybe the little shower or the Kikisui Deutsch Yamantinischki thing. It would be hard because I think over time, for me, the sentimental value of the fish is quite important. So, and they're pets. They're not, you know. That's how I look at it. They're pets. I care for them, look after them. They cost a blimmin' fortune. So, to get rid of one to get one, yeah, I don't know. One of them two. And what would I get? Well, I think now, after my most recent purchase, which is black, white and red, I think more black, white and red, ideally of a bigger size. Showa is got a bit of a thing for Showa at the minute. I can't stop looking at Showa fish online that are for sale. So yeah, definitely be a Showa, but what fish? I'd say probably one of them too. But that's a tricky question. A good one, but tricky. Right, Humphrey Peak. Why in the UK do you have so much in the way of parasite problems? No one seems to use carbon in their filtration. Well, we do use carbon, but we use it to purify water. I don't know how else you would use it. I've never seen anyone else, other than like recycling your pond water through RO systems. I've never seen anybody use carbon for normal filtering of a pond, other than putting the fresh water in to take your chlorine out. I just think parasite problems within the UK are more sort of prevalent to people with maybe unheated ponds, because your temperature swings can annoy the fish and then bring on parasite issues and stuff. I've definitely seen less issues with fish. I know I've had Kosu and I've had flukes this year, but the fish have been a lot happier since the temperature's been stable. And I know this time last year I'd had flukes 2 or 3 times, and I think I'd had Kosu as well, maybe twice as well. So that's as much as I know about that, sorry. Phil Madden, what's the oldest koi you have? Is it the only one, and is it the only pond I've had? So the oldest koi in the pond actual age is Frank the Big Chag. The oldest koi that I own in here, that I've purchased, is Francis the Chag, this one. Again, we'll talk about her a bit more in a minute, because there's another question a bit more related to that. So I'm not sure how old Frank is. I think when I got him he was 6. I've had it, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. It's probably about 10 years old now. FM Peppy, if the wife said you could only have one hobby, would you choose cycling or koi keeping? And FM Peppy, hopefully your wife's not listening, because you said you'd choose a new wife. If I had to choose, we're just talking about this actually, I'd probably choose cycling. And then when I can't cycle anymore because I'm old and decrepit, I'd then have a koi pond. So that's a bit of a win-win really. both quite passionate in my life, these things at the minute. Matt H, don't forget to do your lagging. Yeah, whatever, Matt. Pete Tomlinson, I'm guessing you've already given this information before, but what size is my pond? Okay, so dimensions wise, it's just over 3 meters that way, I think, and it's just under 3 meters this way. So over 3 meters, just under 3 meters, and it's just over 1.5 meters deep. And it gives me a total gallonage of literally just under 3,000 gallons. It's probably just over actually with by the time you had pipe work and stuff in. It didn't quite go to plan when I built the pond. I wanted it 3 meters by 3 meters, but when I laid the blocks out and stuff, I had a little bit more room, so I made it to the size of the hole that I dug, and then I ordered a box welded liner to slot straight in. Even though it was ridiculously odd sizes, it was made to exactly fit the pond, even though one length was longer than the other. So yeah, 3,000 gallons. It's about 3 by 3 by 1.5 deep-ish. Graham Taylor, what was your first fish you bought for the pond and why did I choose it? Right, okay, first fish that I actually purchased was Francis, this chag. And I had an absolute meltdown about it because it cost me 50 quid and I was like, oh my god, I've just spent £50 on a fish. The initial stocking of fish that I had in the pond I actually got for free off of someone that had just built a pond, and he had got a load of fish for free and put them in as his kamikaze fish, and I had them off of him, and then he loaded the pond up with fish that he'd purchased, and then that, as I say, Francis was the first one that I bought. I think she was about 50 centimetres when I got her, probably a couple of years old. Completely changed the pond, to be honest, adding the chag. Right. Kevin Hellier, why don't I move the shower to the centre of the pond because it would look better? Yeah, I did think about that actually, but if I move it into the middle, I'm going to have a great big long piece of pipe across the top rather than just a stubby bit here. And I just weren't sure I'd want all that pipe sticking up, to be honest. And you've probably seen, you can see right now actually, because it is on the edge, I'll get this weird bit of current here, and any sort of foam or bits that fall into the pond always stay in that corner of the pond, and it's probably something to do with the shower not being quite in the middle. So yeah, I suppose if you've got a bit of OCD and you like stuff being square, straight and level and all that, you might want to put it in the middle. But yeah, I didn't think of that at the time. I was just a bit more worried about having that bit of pipe another couple of foot long on its inlet. Right, this one is from Kieran0000. How long have I been keeping koi? And what started my interest in the hobby? So I've had a pond now for, oh my god, 7 years. Originally, I wasn't destined to have a koi pond. I actually wanted to have a natural pond with a bit of a beached area with pebbles and stuff, so the dog could paddle in and out, some goldfish, you know, and the normal sort of pond life, frogs, all that kind of rubbish. It wasn't then until I started digging a hole that then I was like, hello, what are these fancy things? And you see koi and then you're like, yep, I need some koi in my life. Then you start doing a bit more research and then you notice actually you can't just chuck koi into a hole with water in it. It's a little bit more specialist than that. You need to have some filters, you need to have air. So that's when it changed. My interest in the hobby was from fishing, like I know a lot of guys are. Massively into my fishing for about 10 years. So that was why I wanted a bit of a natural pond, lily pads and all that stuff. But then decided it's a bit boring just having a normal pond and easy. I might as well go ridiculously hard and have a koi pond and cause myself some carnage for the next 7 years. Anyway, I love my pond really. Decoy, watching on your big TV. Why don't you grow a pair and buy more Go Sankey? Ha 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 ha. Well, I have. I bought one more yesterday. There. But as I said, I think a few weeks back on one of my videos, it's just safer buying the single colour fish. It's that pushing the boat out and getting something a bit fancy, taking a bit of a risk. So I do want to add probably another show or maybe two at some point. I won't say not this year because that could be a lie, but at some point soon when the right fish comes along. Yeah, and I'm absolutely over the moon with it. It's an absolute clunker. Love it. Right. Andrew Duffy 81. Israeli versus Japanese. The Japanese still far superior. We were talking about this in the lounge just now, and the first time the missus and me went, well, the first time she came, and we went to the National Koi Show at Coventry. We walked past the vat of fish, and she went, "Are they Japanese fish?" And I went, "Actually, no, they're not. They're from Israel, blah, blah, blah." And then we had a conversation about, she asked the same kind of thing. Are they just better from Japan? And do you know, I personally think they are. I don't know why that is. You just look at the quality of the Japanese fish. I think maybe because they've been breeding for longer. For me, I've only ever had Japanese fish. Well, I've actually got an English bred fish in here from Adam Beyer, but I've never had Israeli fish. And that's a whole different story with regards to things like KHV and the injections that they have. I won't really get into that, but personally for me, it will always be Japanese fish, with maybe the odd English one in there. Nicholas Mills. Hi Andy, I'm an expat now living in Cape Town. Always shooting stories. It's winter here now. This is when my pond is at its best. What time of year do you have the least problems, and when does it look its best? Well, I think there are actually different times of the year. I think it looks its best just as the temperatures are getting a bit better and everything's sort of coming to life and the water's crystal clear from winter. There's no weed and bits floating around. So I think that's when it looks its best, but actually I think the least amount of problems is probably normally, for me, midsummer, because the temperature's just been up quite high. They'll let me dig a big hole in it. Well, whenever I like. It's my hobby, so it'll cost me a fortune filling it and getting it sorted. So, but probably never. I'm quite happy with where it is actually. Maybe you could argue maybe it's a little bit small for me. Now I've been keeping koi for a while, but whether or not I'd move it down the other end of the garden, I probably wouldn't. I like it having it near the house. And there's all sorts of other issues, isn't there? Running drains, getting electricity. So I'm happy with where it is. I'll probably never move it from here. If anything, I would extend here. I wouldn't go anywhere up that end of the garden. But again, like I always say never. You never know. Steve Porter, dimensions of the ponds. I did mention this a minute ago. So yeah, it's about 3 metres by 3 metres by 1.5 metres deep and about 3,000 gallons. Sharky 09000. What got you interested in a koi pond? Yeah, I sort of said this earlier. Fishing, really. As a massive fisherman, and when you catch a fish and you see a fish when you're fishing, it's amazing. And to have something like that in your garden, when they're all bright, colourful and friendly, it's I needed to have it, a pond. Hence, then building a pond. Matt H. Again. Serious question this time, Matt, thanks. Are you happy with the size of the drum filter? Does it cope well with the size of the pond? How often does it auto clean, and how often should it auto clean, because you're looking at getting one? Same goes with the shower and what media. Okay, there's a lot there. Am I happy with the drum filter? Well, probably in hindsight I should maybe have got a bigger filter, a bigger drum, so I could turn water over quicker. Because because the drum filter I've got, it's a Quinnicoid 22, so it's 22,000 litres an hour as a max-ish. I know there's some people pulling a lot more through the drum than that, but that will cause it to clean more. And how often does it clean? Well, that's it. Again, that's a bit hard to quantify really. It depends how much debris it's stopping. So this time of year, when there's all weed and bits in the pond and leaves getting in and that from the wind, it will clean a lot more, because obviously the screen will block and then it will know it needs to clean itself. So in winter, it'll probably, if you're out in the garden doing jobs, only hear it, I don't know, maybe every half an hour, 20 minutes, or something like that, sort of midsummer. I mean, even now actually, because I've got quite a lot of weed and the koi are sucking it all off and spitting it out and all that, it can be going. I've been out here today every sort of 7, 8, 10 minutes ish. And how, same goes with the shower. What meter I've got in it? Again, probably should have got the bigger shower. It's a Quinnicoid midi shower. With, obviously, as you can see, only 3 tiers, but they do a 4-tier one. And it's got the Bacteria Home infrared media in it. And I think it's 30 kilos of that. And I think I've got 1 box, maybe 2 boxes, which I bought a few years back from the Quinnicoid winter show, of the Lotus root media, which is the media with the holes in it and the netting on it. We're nearly at the end now, don't worry. Thanks. So this is from Carl Heath. Thanks for posting so much content. Just a quick question. Can you have too much filter systems? I don't think you can have too much, but if you've got a huge filter system, it obviously just, there's no need, is there? Because you have a massive filter system with tons of media in it, which isn't cheap, to only house maybe a small pond or small fish load. It's sort of a bit pointless, really. You do obviously need more filtration than is normally what is stated for the amount of fish and water that you have. It's better to have a bit more, but to completely overload a pond, in my opinion, is a bit pointless. It's just a waste of money. More electricity running pumps, more cost of setting these filters and the media up and stuff. But it won't do any harm. It's just, again, it's just a cost thing, isn't it? What's the point of spending, as we know, koi and everything to do with koi isn't particularly cheap. So why waste maybe £1,000, £2,000 or £3,000 on stuff and then for it not really to be used? Joshua Birch. Oh, I just added this one in actually, yeah. So the best way to kickstart a fresh pond before you add fish, and what to look out for before adding fish. As I've only had 1 pond, which is this here, I'll tell you what I did. I filled it up with water. I added some liquid dechlor, had the air on for a couple of days, and everything circulated. Then I just dumped the fish in. I think initially 6 or 8 fish, up to sort of 50, 55 centimetres. Put them in, a little bit of food every day, a few times a day, and just monitored everything. Obviously, you know you're going to get new pond syndrome, you know you're going to get issues with that, and just water changes. Don't try and, it's ridiculously hard to not try and overfeed fish, and I'm one of the worst people for that. But when you've got a new pond, fresh water, slowly as it, for everyone to settle in and make sure everyone's happy in the pond, and not to go crazy, because your water parameters will just absolutely go off the roof anyway, let alone if you're then piling food in, aiding to the issue and making it worse. And I personally, just as I said, just when I started my pond, I just went through lots of water changes, sort of every few days, 10%, and then I think I was doing maybe 20-25% of a weekend. But again, you can change too much water, because you sort of have to fight your way through new pond syndrome, I found at the beginning. There's nothing that's going to cure it. You just need to sit tight, and as I say, just take it day by day and sort of chill out with it. Don't go crazy. The temptation, especially if you're building a pond in spring and then it's coming around to summer, is to start larruping the food in. It will just cause you issues, and then you end up losing fish maybe, and just having water quality issues, and then just be a bit disappointed with everything, all the hard work that you've done, to sort of be chucking some of it away because of the you new pond syndrome, and you're sort of trying to go a bit too crazy. There we go, that's it for the set questions that everybody posted on the thing. Thanks for everyone that did post a question. Because I'm on my phone, I can't actually see what everyone's been saying. So I'll just push a few buttons to see what goes on here. What's that there? Thanks for answering my question. Yeah, no problem, Josh. Thomas Prendeville, I didn't get it from Gary Parker. It does look like a Gary kind of fish, but it's not. But you'll see next week who I got it off. It was a fellow pond keeper. Have I installed an auto feeder? No, I haven't. This is my feeder, a bucket of food, and me. I'm looking to get one, as I've mentioned numerous times before, but just haven't got around to doing it yet. Having purchased a new fish, a little bit skint at the minute, but it is on the list to purchase at some point soon. Just move these. Turn the air off. Got the air. That's the air. Is there a set amount of feed per day? I've been trying to get around 300 grams of food in a day. This tub actually holds, I did measure it the other day, I put 500 grams in and it came to about there. And so I've been trying to get rid of this every other day. But I haven't been quite successful because I've actually been filling the thing right to the top. So I think there's probably maybe another 100 grams or so in there. But I'm not quite there. It's a bit difficult hand feeding that amount because, like most people, I've got a job, I go to work all day. The wife works all day, so I'm literally just feeding them in the morning. As soon as I get them from work, a couple of hours later, and then before bed. So they're getting sort of 4, maybe 5 good handfuls of food. So trying to get 300 grams is sort of doable, 250 to 300 is doable, but more than that, I would struggle without having an auto feeder. Again, it's easier of a weekend because if you're around, especially now we're on sort of semi-lockdown, to chuck more food in. So they do tend to get fed more at the weekend. Michelle Vaughan, hi Mish. Is fish okay after treating? Yeah, actually. As you know, I had Costia and I did an FMG. Well, I did 2 lots of FMG 7 days apart, and the last one was actually 7 days today since the last lot of treatment, and actually blasted easily through the second lot of FMG. Weren't too happy the first time I did it, but the second time round, for some reason, I had a little bit of sulking for sort of day and a half, 2 days, and they then poked right up. So I'd like to think now, I mean, all the excess mucus has gone on the kahaku, which is what alerted me in the first place to do a scrape. Although it's still a bit veiny, but all the mucus has disappeared. So Trevor, how's the new food you're feeding? Yeah, it's alright. Fish like it. But I'm not sure whether it leaves a slight tinge in the water. If I'm putting lots in, which I have done when I've either been off work or of a weekend, and lots of food in it, there's a slight tinge on the water. Maybe a bit hard to see on the camera. But I don't know whether that's maybe to be expected if you're putting a lot of food in, or whether it is this particular type of food, I don't know. But fish like it. There's not really a lot else to say, is there? I mean, we're sort of sold it to see whether the fish will like it, and you chuck it in if they eat it. Good enough, I suppose. And if you get a bit of growth and the the quality and the colours of the fish are still there, then it's doing its job, I suppose. Nicholas Mills, what's the temp of my pond? I'm at 20 degrees still, which has been actually today. I don't know where everyone else is in the UK. I'm in Nottinghamshire, on the Nottinghamshire-Lincolnshire border. It's been absolutely ridiculous today. We've had rain, it's been windy all day, and the wind is actually a little bit fresh, so my heat pump's been on all day pretty much. But it doesn't cost a lot, Mrs. Decoy, if she's still watching. It's only money anyway. Let's have a look at the questions here if there's any more. So Anthony Watkins, personally I would use an auto feeder if I go on holiday. Well, we say that actually, yes, if you want to feed your fish, that's fine. I mean, I've had a few 2-week holidays. I think the last holiday we went on was actually out for 15 days because we stayed the night before, and they had no food whatsoever for the 15 days and they were fine. So I wouldn't panic when people worry about going away and feeding the fish. Actually, don't panic about not giving them food. In fact, you're probably safer not giving them food or having an auto feeder on, because if you have a mass dump of the auto feeder, you could be coming back to some crazy issues. But I've never bothered feeding when I've gone away. Normally I have someone come around to check every couple of days. A mother-in-law only lives up the road, and either a neighbour or a fellow koi friend that don't live too far, just to pop in and make sure everything's still working. Oh, Mike, if that's a bit personal, what was the most expensive fish and how much was it? Mike, do you not know? All of the fish in my pot, they're £50 each. Because that's all Mrs. Daly allows me to spend on fish. So that's, you know, 50 quid each. All of them. Bargain. Kieran, Saints fan here. Thoughts on today's Watford match? We were poor. That's all I'm saying on that. How many fish do I intend to keep in my pond? That's a good question. I don't know. I haven't got a set number. I've currently got 13, but I've got a few smaller ones. Obviously, the little Achiba's obviously tiny, and the 2 yellow ones, they're reasonably small. I don't know. Maybe 15 is a max. But I haven't got a set number in my head. As long as the filters can cope and my water quality's fine, then I'll just sort of play it by ear and see how it goes that way, rather than having a specific number. But I think you have too many fish in the pond, it looks too busy. But if you haven't got enough, again, it looks a bit sparse. So there's a bit of a fine line. Oh God, Matt H, you got all the questions, mate. What do I think about RO? It's brilliant for cleaning windows. We use thousands of litres of the stuff every day. In fact, I'm going to have a video about that. A friend of mine actually just started a business selling filters and RO. He's pretty much the UK's RO guru, Andy Finch. And I'm hoping to pop and see him at some point very soon, and we'll do a video about it. I don't know a huge amount about it for koi ponds, but from what I've seen, there's some amazing results that people have had with growth and injuries, where scales and stuff have grown back like really quick, and just the skin quality of fish. So possibly, but whether or not I want to be tinkering with that along with everything else, and it's something else to worry about, I don't know. But you never know. Never say never. I'll go back a bit further. Mr. Muttley 1971, whoever he is, how big is the new shower? Did he use a dealer measuring tape? Yeah. No, the new shower's 58 centimetres. I did notice actually Stu's bowl, the tape was slightly bent round the corner. 57, 58, but he measured it at 58, but under 60 at the minute. Anthony Watkins, how often do I show my koi? Never. The only showing I've ever done is club photo show. Apart from this year, and I decided to do the Chatter koi photo show just to sort of try and support the koi hobby and stuff. So never, they've never gone into a vat at a koi show anywhere. Did the cooker stop flashing after the FMG? Yeah, I poured the whole bottle of FMG on the cooker and it stopped flashing. It was amazing. No, you sausage. Obviously, because I'd had a power cut, the cooker loses the time, doesn't it? Which I'm sure you know, you're just pulling my leg. And that's how I knew we'd had a power cut in the house, because of the cooker time had disappeared. I show my koi most week in a tub. Yeah, maybe. Not anymore. I've tried to be quite good this year with getting them in and out and stuff, and not getting them in and out, and just letting them get on with it. Seabears pond. How much more do you think the air source heat pump will cost to run during the winter compared to the summer with the colder air? Yeah, good question. Not a clue. Talking to some friends actually about heating and costs and all that kind of stuff. I mean, actually, Gary is on the chat right now. Is a good one to ask. He's very conscientious about it, and I'm probably going to take a leaf out of his book and sort of follow the ambient air temps, because there's no point in trying to heat. If you want to worry about not spending a fortune on heating costs, there's no point in trying to heat to 20 plus when the air temps are low, especially with an air source heat pump, because you obviously the warmer the initial air, the less electricity you'll be using to get to your desired temperature. So much like what Gary does, my koi buddy mate, I'll be adjusting the temperature depending on the pond, depending on the ambient air temperatures that we're getting there in the UK. So cost wise, hopefully I can keep it at a few quid a day, but I'm sort of looking at about it in my head that if come springtime I'm not having to treat for 1 million parasites and or lose fish, which obviously at £50 a pop, that's a lot of money. If it costs me a few hundred quid over the course of winter to heat, I'm seeing that as a win, really. Obviously I know it's not going to be free, there is a cost with it, but it's limiting the cost, so covering the pond probably a bit sooner than normally would, and monitoring the air temps and adjusting the heat pump to suit. As I say, I'm not trying to be ridiculous with my heating ideas. Matt H. God, he's on my case about lagging. Look, let me go around here. This is for Matt. I don't know if you'll see actually. What's that, Matt? It's a bit of lag in there, look, lad. I've been trying. God, on the case. The skimmer is working, but I do need... That's a good question, actually. No, it's all working, it's all up and fine. I do need to adjust the flow, actually, because it's not drawing a huge amount of water. Let's go around and have a quick look. Because it's quite a long run of pipe work, because obviously, as we know, it goes along there, then across the back into the drum. The shorter run is from the drain to the drum. So it's pulling more water from the drain. So I need to slightly close the ball valve to get a bit of better flow through the skimmer, because this is all I'm getting. Plus the weir plate's quite low. If I had the weir plate a bit higher, it would actually skim the water a bit better. So that's the kind of flow that it's pulling through. But because I've run quite a high water level, in hindsight, again, because it was the first pond I built, I wasn't really knowing what I was doing. The skimmer should have been a lot higher up the wall. and then rather than it being all the way up there, it'd have been halfway up the front of the skimmer, rather than being the full face of the water of the skimmer. But no, it's working, but it just needs tweaking to get the optimal usage from it. In fact, there's nothing on the surface at the minute. It's doing something, it's just I don't think it's working probably as well as it could because of the amount of water, or the height of the water on it. Jacob Hilton Loom. Going to do a blanket weed treatment this week. Yeah, I think I am. It's actually gone a bit crazy this last couple of days. There's some proper long bits. Oh, that's my headphone in there. There's some proper really long bits in there at the minute. This side, which gets the sun, so yeah, I'll need to do something about it. There's quite a lot floating around in the water now where the koi have ripped it off and they're eating it and spitting it out. See, I'm going to be getting that in probably, I don't know, at some point this week. How big's the achiever at the minute? I can't remember. I did measure it actually for the photo show pic. I think it was 28 centimetres, something like that. But actually, since I've had the heater on and the water's been quite warm and there's been a bit of food going, I think it's actually grown a bit. It's definitely put a bit more body on. Phil Madden, given up moaning this year. Yeah, I know. It's a new me. Don't moan about me not moaning. Jeez. Yeah, I don't know, a bit more chilled out. I don't know why or how. Just am. I'm sure at some point I'll slip back with something. Something will go wrong and I'll have a meltdown, so don't worry. The skimmer is fine, just needs a bit of caulk. Yeah, I've actually got behind there, from some insulation polystyrene kind of stuff. I've cut a wedge off and it's over there. To put on the back of the plate just to hold it up a bit higher, so it is actually just skimming the top of the surface off. And again, another job need to get around doing. Have I ever had any fry? Yep. When I had an indoor grow on in my garage and the koi spawned in there, I got a load of fry in a fish tank, a bit like what Decoy's done and a few other guys. Had them in the fish tank, and then rather than being as patient as I think the other guys at Dan C and Decoy, not quite as patient as them, I went out and bought a little sponge filter from Pets at Home, put that in there, and guess what? Yep, sucked them all up, killed every single one of them. So no, not for me. I haven't got the patience for that. What do I use to treat the blanket weed? I use Clear Water's blanket weed treatment. In fact, when I get that out and do that, I will make sure it's on the diary and put a link to where I get it. I found that to be the best stuff. In fact, Gary Parker, my koi mate, got me on that again. Good stuff. Doesn't massively cloud the water like James the Koi Whisperer. When you put your, I can't think the other one, the blanket weed treatment you use, you get all the fine dust residue right afterwards for a few days, if not weeks. You don't get that with this stuff. Same job, less maintenance. Do I have any problem with herons? Nope. Unbelievably. I have seen them flying over, but you can't see now, but there's a couple of massive oak trees over the other side of this field here, and the crows nest in them. And as soon as the crows see any kind of bird of prey or heron or anything like that, they go absolutely nuts and attack it and obviously just try and scare it off. So luckily, I've only seen a heron once in the garden, and it was when we had the dog and it was sitting on the hedge. The dog was barking at it and it didn't even bat an eyelid about it. That's the only time I've seen a heron anywhere near the pond. But I've got a roof, so probably flying over, and it's not a point of interest if they are not being attacked by the crows. So if they are flying over, they're just sort of going and then gone. Oh yeah, cloverleaf, that's what it's called. Cheers, Keith Taylor. I'll always be the grumpy fish man to you. Yeah, yeah. I'm not. I'm smiling at the minute. Do you want to see? Look, look. I'm smiling. Even though I look like a bit trampy. Do I put clay in my pond? I have been put onto it by Decoy, the Master's Advantage stuff. I don't think it's actually a clay, or it claims not to be a clay. I can't remember exactly, but there's something weird about it. I did use that last year. For some reason, I've just been a bit poor and not been using any of it this year. But once I sorted my blanket weed out, I'm going to get back on it. Do I use a D-sludge after blanket weed treatment? Nope. One of the good things with a bottom drain, obviously anything that's broken off or comes off will go down the drain and get taken out by the drum. But that might need a manual intervention, no doubt, because I've left it so long and there is quite some long stringy bits. But no, I don't ever put anything in else afterwards. Yeah, Mark F. That's pretty much why I started the channel, actually. Because when I was going through all my... Oh, they're kissing. X-rated. When I was going through all of my problems, I just wanted to sort of document it. And I know when I was having issues, there was not a lot of stuff out there. And you just think you're the only person that this kind of stuff's happened to. But it's actually not. Everyone has issues of some kind at some point. It's just sort of, you know, I've done a lot of things wrong over the years, but that's how you learn, isn't it, really? Right or wrong, you're learning from it. Yeah, Yeti, that's it. Is there a Marmite variety of koi, in my opinion? Well, in fact, I know what my Marmite koi is. Love it or hate it. I know this is going to not agree with a few of you guys here, because I know some of the other guys have got this variety, especially the guys that video stuff. Kajaku. Never really been a fan. I did have one actually many moons ago. If you go back a few years and look at some of my mega old videos, I did have one. It was a blimp. Didn't really grow length, it just grew sort of width. And then it ended up getting something wrong with its mouth actually. But yeah, never really been a massive fan of Kajaku. Whether that's because I've not seen a decent one in the flesh, I don't know. Yeah, never been a massive fan. The best McCoy been in a few months. Yeah, again, I'm putting that down to just having a stable temperature, because the weather has been all over the place. Oh, we're flashing now. The weather's been all over the place, and I think sometimes just having the temperature stable, not necessarily hot, but just stable. I'm just going to turn the air on, just getting in. It makes a world of difference to the pond. And as I say, for the first few weeks of me having the temperature stable, they were just different fish. Absolutely, completely different. What size UV am I using and how often do I change the bulb? Never change the bulb, and it's an amalgam UV. I've had it about 2 years. I think it's only a 45 watt one, and it's actually inside the drum in the filter bay. Did I manage to sell the old Evo filter? Don't know what Evo filter that is. Evo what? I don't know what that is, asterisk. Size of my pond, yep. It's about 3 metres by about 3 metres. I've zoomed in there, haven't I? by about 1.5 meters deep, just under 3,000 gallons. How to determine bacterial infections? I don't know what I'm doing with my phone, it's having a bit of a meltdown. Treatment for bacterial infections as to whether gram-negative or positive. That's a bit of an intense question. Actually, what I did initially, if you've been watching a while, I got a report from Paula Reynolds at Links Fish Health to determine the exact antibiotic that was needed, and then went to my local vet and purchased it off of them. But like most koi keepers, if you're feeling you've got a bacterial infection, we use normally a product called Bacterial because it's quite forgiving and it's a little bit easier to get hold of. And it's like a general kind of antibiotic. It's a very deep subject, that. It's a bit hard to talk about it, but not that I know a ton of stuff about it. What's the dream koi I want? I don't know really. Probably a massive shower. Like, I'm talking 70, 80 centimetre-ish. I do like shower, but it's one of them varieties for me. All the ones that I like are silly expensive. So, you know, sort of put me off over the years from maybe buying them. But I've got a half decent one now though. But yeah, Dreamfish would definitely be a shower, a big shower. Have I checked the 2-degree differential on the inlet and outlet on the air source heat pump and adjusted it? Yes, I have, Marek. We've talked about it with a couple of my other friends actually that's got a heat pump, because I was initially running, it was a 6-degree difference. So then I've adjusted it and I've got it to the 2-degree difference on the inlet and outlet. But yeah, I didn't realise that because it's pretty much like a bull in a china shop, fitted it-ish, quick-ish, and then just turned it on, hoping for the best. But yeah, it needs slightly tweaking, and yeah, I've done that now. If I ever increase the size of my pond, would I fiberglass it? Probably, yeah. I went for a box welded just for cost. It was quite a lot cheaper than a fiberglass pond. Thought about getting or making a fractionator. I have done that before. I made one many moons ago from a grow on and it worked brilliant. And I have actually I used to have a Clarity protein skimmer thing here, which is one of that little holes in that thing there, sat on the side of the pond there, but ended up decided to get rid of it because, I don't know, it just looked a bit ugly on the side of the pond, I think. So I ended up getting rid of it. Am I on a water meter? No, thank God. If I was on the water meter, I would seriously be considering the size of my pond and how much water I change. Because obviously, again, it's another cost. It's sort of not a hidden cost, but it's one of those things that you don't really think about, but it can sort of cost an absolute fortune if you want to change a lot of water over the time. Next door's hose. Yeah, I wish. Never worked out the difference. Yeah, I was talking to Stu, who I got the shower off actually. I've never really been a Sankey fan because it just, to me, they look like they want to be a shower with just a small bit of sumi here and there, whereas I like to see a decent bit of sumi on a fish. It just looks like a bit hit or miss, rather than having some nice big sumi patches in between the red. What media am I using? I I've got, oh God, sorry. I don't know what is going on. I keep touching that button. So I've got 30 odd kilos of Midori Infrared media, and I think I've got 2 boxes of the Lotus root media, the small stuff. Any plans on a Japan trip? I'm not made of money, and because if I go, not only will the trip cost a few quid, you go and you might as well buy something, so you need a decent few quid to be able to buy the fish that you want to buy, and say that you've got that memory and have that fish. No point in going in there with a couple of £100 in your pocket. I've answered that, FM Pepe. Come on, where were you at the start? If I had to choose, it would be cycling, and then when I couldn't cycle anymore, I'd build a pond. But luckily, my wife is one of the most understanding people in the world. She don't care for either. How much food have I chucked in so far? Yeah, not as much as I did last time, but probably too much. Can't help it. Especially these ones, they just eat and eat, look. And nothing to do with koi is cheap, yes. Put koi in front of anything to do with a pond and you can double or triple the price. Anyone in the house ever feed the fish? Yeah, wife doesn't mind chucking some food in every now and again. But normally it's just me. The new Ogon is shy tonight. Yeah, it was a bit. It prefers actually now to eat off the bottom rather than come up. It did spend a bit of time smashing everyone out of the way, trying to get up for food, but now it sort of hangs back because it knows there's some food going down and it'll eat off the bottom. Right, so I've bored everyone for over an hour now, and I'm a little bit chilly, so I'm going to sort of wrap this up now. And so thank everyone that came on and asked questions and chatted between yourselves and stuff. It's been brilliant. Hopefully I'll have a video out Wednesday this week if I get my backside into gear and get it edited. I've been to visit a few ponds over the weekend, and hopefully I'll get that sorted and out, and then obviously my normal diary next Saturday. So thanks everybody for watching, and I'll catch you all on hopefully Wednesday evening, if not definitely Saturday morning, with me weekly diary video. Thanks for watching, and bye.